At this point, I'd like to take a moment to talk about ePRO, in our system what we call Viedoc Me. Viedoc Me is very simple for your sites to initiate. All I click on is the icon here in the top right corner and enter some basic information. We support over 35 languages for Viedoc Me. That means that not only are your surveys going to be translated into the patient's preferred language, but the actual application is as well. For the purpose of this demo, we'll stick with English. We also have the ability to have our system send reminders based on the schedule that you configure to the subjects. I prefer receiving messages via text message, so I would enter my phone number, including country code. And at that point, I can say, well, please send me reminders to that phone. I click on the box and click Activate Account. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, but that's personally identifiable health information. How can you save that in a clinical database? Here you can see that as soon as I activate this particular subject account, that information is encrypted. And we have some technical documentation which explains how this is encrypted, but I can tell you this is extremely secure. The system is able to then send test text messages to that phone, so you can ensure that you got the phone number right. And then once we start initiating our subject visits, based on the schedule we've programmed, additional text messages will be sent to that system until they complete their requisite ePRO form. We also see we have the generation of a username and PIN code, and we also generate a simple log of user information. This can be printed or emailed to the subject so they have a copy of their credentials to access the system. I'm going to go ahead and copy those. I'm working on a PC, but this works as equally as well on a Mac, an iPhone, or an Android. So we'll go ahead and go to this URL for Viedoc Me, and I'm going to enter that basic information. I click Login, and upon clicking Login, I have to enter a new PIN code. So I'll go ahead and do that now, and we'll change the PIN. At this point, I'll continue into the system. This is the screen that I would see. I'm again working on a PC, so everything's a little bit bigger and wider. However, if I were working on a smartphone, all of this is simply condensed down, and it looks great. I will then click on my green area, which is to indicate what I have to do today, and I'm brought to my first ePRO form. I can now start entering my requisite data. And do note that all of these are set to be required, so I can't accidentally miss something, which is a massive benefit to using ePRO over a paper-based survey. I can also have free text if I want to. We'll continue with our simple data entry. The visual analog scale can be configured so that, of course, your anchor text and question text is configurable and can be changed. You can choose to get rid of that color scale if you don't like that. In the below box, I can actually see the number that I've selected. I can drag this around as much as I like. You can choose to drop that score if you want. There's a lot of configurations that can be made here. We'll go ahead and click on the next arrow, and it does give me a warning that says I'm about to submit my data. At this point, I can go back and change my response options. However, as we note here in the message, once we click submit, that data is locked in. This is very important to mention. We want to ensure that we do not allow the patients to go back and change things after they've entered data, and that's to limit recall bias. We want to collect all those data parameters at one point in time. We don't want them to be able to open that form tomorrow or even in 2 hours and reevaluate how they're feeling. We want to know how they're feeling right now. At this point, I can go back to the start page and I can see my next questionnaire that's ready for me as a subject. However, if I go back to the clinic side of the system and refresh my screen, we'll see here on home administration that that medication diary is already in my platform. Not only that, but the form history here is going to show me that the data is attributed to the subject and it's also in a locked state by default. That ensures that that patient-derived data is safe from accidental editing. There are ways to unlock that data and perform changes if you need to, and we have an entire white paper describing best practices for that procedure. The Viedoc Me application can also be used to collect unscheduled events. So say you have ad hoc medications that you would like the subject to report as they take them. You can use any of these unscheduled events to perform that action. Now in this demo, I actually have a place where they can add ad hoc adverse event or adverse reactions, but also I have this cognitive sample test. And I like to look at this because it's an example of a drawing pad. If I'm on a PC, I'm using my mouse, but if I'm on a touchscreen enabled device, such as a smartphone, I could just draw right directly on my screen. This is very useful for different types of studies if you want to have simple drawings. And we also have the ability to add a visual pain map as well, where the patient can draw on a picture of a human body exactly where pain hurts or any other question that you're asking. The Viedoc Me view in the system is very useful if you're running an ePRO heavy study. Our ePRO tool allows you to collect data in the clinic or at home using the patient's own device, be it an iPhone, an Android, or their personal computer. This compliance report is an early indicator if subjects are starting to miss their scheduled ePRO events. Obviously, to have a successful study, you need to collect as much of the required data as possible. This tool is an early flag if patients are starting to miss information. In our demo here, we only have 2 events, so the metrics aren't all that interesting. However, I can see if I'm at 100% compliance, 50% compliance, meaning they missed one of the 2 required visits, or no compliance, 0%. They've missed 100% of those ePROs. So this is really, again, a way to gauge the overall health of your study.